The world is changing. Truth is vanishing. War is coming.
I'm asking everybody today to describe in your words the Tom Cruise run, because it is stuff of legend. So how would you each describe it?
I watched him a lot because I was like, what is this? What is going on? There seems to be a direct correlation with how much he runs in the film and the success of the overall film. People love to see this man run.
He runs a lot in this one.
Yes, he does. And what I think it is, yes, he's fast. That's not the interesting thing. Watching him run in real life, and it transmits on screen, he runs with every cell in his body. And it's like he's either getting away from a bear, like it's almost primal, caveman energy, or it's running to something that he's gonna kind of save. And I think also his running becomes a metaphor for his approach to anything movie related. He puts absolutely everything into it. And I think that's the thing that you feel, because anyone can kind of run fast on screen and be made to look like they're running even faster if they need to. But there's something about the way that he studied the form that you can see that it has so much kind of energy and power in it.
And he does it in his close-ups too. Even in his acting, what you're saying about it's every cell, even like a twinkle in his eye, something.
Yeah, everything's awake.
Yeah.
Just so present, I think it is, isn't it? Just so totally present to the present moment, right there. He's with you, even when we were at dinner last night, he's just with you, you know, he's not anywhere else. So I can float off into the
that is a
into
skill
the
in
Roman
itself,
hills
to be able to be in the moment and stay in the moment. Your first time in the movie, it's my understanding that during the audition process, it was a lengthy process, and it was more about like creating those moments, and even in the filming, and that you were put through these physical tests. Can you describe a little bit about that process, because it sounds so unique to what auditioning is usually like?
Yeah, well, Christopher McQuarrie had seen me in a play 10 years ago and took me out for dinner and said, I want to work with you. I want to find the character that bottles the thing that I know that you can do on that stage. Cut to 10 years later, and he brings me in to meet Tom for this. And there was about 10 pages of dialogue that I'd learned for it that he'd written that we knew wouldn't be in the film, but it would just be a sort of an introduction to working with each other. And very quickly, it felt like we were workshopping it. It didn't feel like I was standing there and I did a reading and tried a different way and thank you very much for the time, we'll be in contact. It was, do one where you're withholding information. Now do one where you're totally oblivious to anything going on around you and you think you're just having a nice time. Now let's maybe try one. We just throw out that bit of dialogue and come up with something else. And then we look at playback and we look at what the lighting and the composition of the frame was revealing about a quality in my personality on screen and what they felt that might translate as a character in this franchise. And then there was, of course, the physical side of things where they were testing to see kind of how quickly I could learn fight choreography. And then and sort of an evaluation of where they thought my natural skill set lay and where I could get to with the right training. And again, you know, because Chris McQuarrie and Tom are such students of film, they're fascinated by the process. And with everyone, incredibly inclusive of every side of filmmaking, from the technical aspect as well as the acting. So I already felt from day one this was going to be a collaborative process.
So I got a follow-up to that. What is your skill set naturally as a fighter? And did you bring your ventriloquist skills into the audition?
The thing that I felt was very clear was, partly because of my theatrical background, props for me are key, to use a very important word in the movie. They are key, they're an extension of how she expresses herself in the world, how she feels about certain things and certain people. And so when I was doing fight choreography, if you gave me a knife, I could learn it faster. My brain actually worked better if I had something I was holding as opposed to just physically doing a routine without it. And that's also where the sleight of hand tricks came in as well. And then the other thing, which was a total surprise to me, was drifting. Drifting was the thing that I became proficient in because for some bizarre reason, I took to it quite well. Total surprise.
So you never did the ventriloquist?
I did not, no.
I accept this mission. That never happened in one take. You're like, no. For you, the last film, there was more fighting, I feel like. This one was more character driven, and I kept thinking to myself as I was watching the film, who is she channeling? Like, was there somebody that you were channeling something? And then I also heard that Christopher McQuarrie had you read books on power. and sort of embracing that power. So as somebody who doubts themselves, what did you take away from those books?
The book was really interesting. It was mostly saying that power doesn't need to assert itself. It's actually is more magnetic, as in you have to attract the sensation rather than put it out. If you put it out, it suggests that there's a kind of a need to prove, and that isn't powerful. So everything we talked about, I watched people like Lauren Bacall and those actresses who are just they have such potency, really, and they're not doing too much. They just have this presence. So it was much more about doing less, and even when I tried takes in Fallout that were more fueled with a kind of anger or something, it just lost the command somehow. So that was the key to it, I think.
Have you seen the Philadelphia Story with Hepburn?
Yeah.
Talk about owning your power, right?
Right, exactly.
That is 100%
Exactly
one
that.
of those. Asking also everybody today, if there was a stunt of Tom's, you had to choose one from the franchise that you had to do, which one would you choose?
I liked, what was it, the one that we were talking about earlier on the wire, I think the first one.
The zip wire, isn't it, on the
Rappel,
very first movie where he goes down.
I don't know the names of it, in the white room.
On a wire.
Yeah, that one. I think
Where you're like...
Exactly, because if you fall, you're not falling very far.
Unless the wire...
Yeah, that's true, but that's, the least of the evils of his stunts, I think.
The halo jump, I think. I've skydived a little bit, a few times, and I love it. So I just killed to do that.
Wow. That to me sounds like, other than hanging off the plane.
We were discussing the building and the heights. That's not for us.
No.
It's not for us.
100%.
The Burj Khalifa, would be scary.
Was this the first time you worked together?
Yeah.
For you, the train sequence, can you describe the 0 Gs? How does that feel? How is it shot? Like a little bit of a breakdown from your perspective as an actress.
Yeah, like everything in the film, everything is meticulously planned and is built up to, so it becomes a sensation in my body that I'm familiar with, as opposed to, the first time that I have that experience, it's your body's going, what is going on? And it goes into a little bit of, adrenaline. And so after that, when you do it a second time, your body's like, oh, okay, I'm familiar with this. And so it's easier as you go on, like anything, like skydiving would be too. It's so fun to watch that because it's a different dynamic within the train. The train itself is another character. The Fiat 500 is another character. So to have a design of these different carriages having different worlds, like you have the kitchen carriage, the piano bar, the dining room carriage, and they all have their own obstacles and things that each character has to overcome and help each other overcome. And so much of the physicality comes out of that, yeah.
What is the most, where your stomach is like, is it the drifting or is it the 0 Gs? Is it something?
No,
like that?
It's, there was a vertical train rig that goes from vertical to horizontal in 6 seconds. And we had to do that multiple times and hit a certain mark and hang from it. That was, over time, because we did it so many times, that's when it becomes more and more challenging to sustain that level of sprinting, inclining. Yeah. And then there was another part where he says on the train carriage, do you trust me? And I didn't act that. I just went, no. And then, I guess I should be saying yes, and then yes. And they used that in the film, and it was just before I meant to jump across the train carriage as the piano comes crashing down on me. And it's that feeling of if there is any time to think about what you're doing, that can actually paralyze you.
Wow.
And so the more time I had to think, the scarier it was. But again, with Tom, he's so fearless that if you just don't think about it and let go into the process, you know that you're going to be held, you're always going to be safe.
Wow. And last question for you. I read that you said that Tom is that person that makes you bring out your own mission and feel like you can do anything in your life. What is it that you now feel like is your mission because of that experience?
I think all the examples of how he goes beyond the limit of what most people would ever attempt to, it's kind of that. It's what's the edge that you think, I don't know if I could go past that, or as you said, self-doubt. For me, I guess it was just knowing, when you see Tom, who's such a cinephile and care about cinema so much, and as actors you do, you grow up on films, it's like changed my life, and it is my life, and I just love nothing more. And I suppose it's to kind of go beyond the realms of what I think is possible in that. And there's been a couple of films I've done since the first mission, and I know that the ability to kind of believe and being able to do that, you know, I had to give birth and I hadn't given birth before, and it was just terrified me, like jumping off a cliff. It felt like that, because I thought if I get this wrong, I'm actually getting it wrong on behalf of every woman that's done it, you know, and that felt, I didn't know if I could do it, but I just sort of thought, well, you know, if Tom can put his life in danger every single day, I can maybe like manage to do that. So that's an example of the limit, and so I kind of try and apply that now in different areas.
I just want to start things off. I'm asking everybody today, can you both describe the Tom Cruise run from your opinion?
When I was making The World's End in a long time ago now, 10 years ago now, I called Tom to say, I'm about to do this running scene. I had to sprint down the street, and I said, wait, have you got any tips? And he said, keep your arms pumping, your head high. No, keep your knees high, your arms pumping, and your head forward. And that's the rule. I mean, that's the way.
But also, I would say, I mean, when I see it, it's also about the hand position. You know, you're not like this, and you're not like relaxed. You're like kind of like cutting the air like razors.
Aerodynamism.
Yeah.
Did you do that in your run in The World's End?
I did, and I actually became 32% faster.
No, did
just
you really?
With that.
Are you making that up, or is that real? Wow.
I am making it up, but it's funny.
That's amazing.
I'm not making up about I did call him about the running.
Time.
Yeah, but he's just, you know, sprinting is very good for you, and I think that's part of the reason he looks like he does at 60.
Yeah, no, very, very true.
Yeah.
I don't know how he does it in between doing all the stunts.
I know.
You are such a wonderful addition to this franchise.
Thank you.
Sorry.
You are such a wonderful addition to
No,
this
talk to
franchise 6 films ago.
5.
Oh, that's crazy.
Can you talk a little bit about becoming this character? Because when I was watching you, and tell me if I'm wrong, I thought she's channeling an animal. I don't know which animal it was. It was so
is. How do you know? Did you hear about that?
No.
I told people about that. It's called the shoebill stork, or the shoebill.
I've seen that thing with the
Do you know?
big.
It's a crazy
Big.
animal that is prehistoric bird, and that looks insane. And I would watch videos of the bird. I was like, this is me. And then the bird is like slowly moving and just, I'm gonna look at the camera like this, and then staring like this. And in the movie, I stare a lot, actually, so it works.
It does. Was the makeup, was that part you, or was that written in the script?
No, the makeup was, so it made sense when I did it, because people were supposed to wear masks. The other people were going to a party, and then people ended up not wearing a mask. So I look a little bit insane, but I like looking insane anyway. No, it was inspired by Pierrot Lunaire. You know, it was my idea, you know, a character from Commedia dell'arte. I mean, we're in Italy, so I'm supposed to have the accent. And, you know, with a teardrop, there was like a side of it that was like a little bit melancholic, you know, I thought fitted the character. And also there was like a side of it that was like a little bit like a pantomime, so a little bit like creepy and weird and eerie. And I thought that with this fight scene, it would look cool. And because like everything was, sorry, I'm not supposed to.
Well, you did an F-bomb.
Everything was dark, you know, because it's nighttime. So I thought that would like bring some light to the face as well. And also with the sweat, it would be like a little bit like weird, and I would look like a monster. And actually it worked.
You could never look like a monster.
No, but you just did a head thing where it was just like, oh, I felt like you could turn your head on its axis there for a second.
It's good luck.
Next movie, maybe.
There, I know you're both in the middle of filming. So for you, sir, I made a connection. Every film, you get a hero shot. In Fallout, you got a big, beautiful backlit shot where you came in on the boat and you were the hero for that moment. You get it again at the Coliseum. Talk about Benji having his hero moments now. He's really evolved.
He has. Well, you know, he was a kind of little lab technician in the third one, and he's gone from being a sort of puppy dog to a much more mature member of the team. And yeah, he always gets his little moment, and he's always there. He's kind of like, you know, the really strong woman behind the successful husband. That's what Benji is. And McHugh's always really great at making sure. Personally, I think he does this for every single character in this film. That's one thing we thought when we watched it, was that everybody has their moment, you know, and there's a beautiful moment. I love the shot of, no spoilers, but there's a wonderful shot of Pom where she sits down and her hands sort of retract. He's so good at making sure every character feels sort of serviced in a way. And I think
you bring it, like your character brings a lot of empathy to the movie as well. That is really needed, and especially in action movies like that.
You know what's funny is I had the question, and watching these films, why does he stay? Why every time Ethan says, you know, we're gonna do this, you follow him, no matter how crazy.
Yeah.
And then you get your moment of why in this film.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Where the AI informs why. And it's the most poignant movie. So can you talk about that line and delivering that line? Was that a lot of takes? Was it?
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of, Mission Impossible is always about the team, you know, even though Ethan's there at the forefront, and the team, and what the team mean to each other, and what friendship means, and the weight of friendship. These are all, as you learn in this film, anyone that's in the IMF has made a choice at some point in their life to do so, because they have been in a position where they don't really have much choice to do anything else other than, you know, an alternative kind of fate, which isn't so nice. So Benji chose to be in the IMF, and he and Ethan and Luther are very good friends, and Benji is tested, you know, in this film to reveal what is the most important thing to him, and he has to say his friends, and that just ups the ante on it in terms of all the stakes, you know, because if any of us lose each other, it's going to impact very hard. So
I want to talk about your brutal. I wrote the words brutal in my screening for your fight scene with Tom. It was one of the most brutal fight scenes, I think, of the entire series. Can you just talk about pummeling Tom, first of all?
we call it pommeling.
Pommeling?
Not pummeling, pommeling.
Pommeling!
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh! This is a new thing.
Yes.
We have to coin this.
When she beats you up, which she does quite regularly, we get pommeled.
I thought it was going to be the Pom Tom show, but apparently you won up to me. That's even better. It's the pommeling. So
yes,
if you can just talk about how many days that was, the process of filming it, how incredible it was, and is it kind of fun to just unleash?
It was so much fun. It was, I rehearsed for months and months. We shot the movie I was out of my home for almost longer than a year, and we shot the fight scene at the end of the shoot. So, you know, and we, you know, it was very technical too, because the alleyway was very narrow, so we needed to find a place to put the cameras, to light it properly, for the kicks, the hits to be shown, and but it was incredible, you know, Tom works in such detail, you know, with such precision, you know, and for him, and it's why the Mission Impossible movies are so incredible too, with the action. It's not about the choreography and about the movements. It's about the characters and what happens between them and what the fight tells and how the audience feels about it. So sometimes what is more interesting in the fight is actually the moments in between the hits, when the characters are tired, when one of the characters is down and looking up and wanting to give up but still fights, and all these bits, you know, that really create emotions, you know. So it was incredible to watch him work and to get to do that scene with him. And I kept asking him to just hit me in here, you know, to kick me, because I was squeezing my abs. He was no, because he's such a gentleman, he wouldn't do it. But you know, I've been training for a long time, so it was let's go, you know. But he was hit me. He was no, of course. But you know, I'm not saying that you have to hit each other when you do fight scenes, but just a little bit of contact, if it's controlled, it helps with this scene, I think. But you know, anyways, we had a blast.
It's my understanding that Christopher actually changed shots around because of what you were doing, that he actually went, oh no, this is really interesting, and actually changed what he was planning because you were doing so many incredible, interesting things.
Oh, thank you, yeah.
I'll just sort of end this on, if there is a stunt of Tom's that you had to do, which would be the stunt from all of the franchise?
That we had, gun to head, had to do?
Yeah, you had to do. Don't pick an easy one from 1, 2, or 3.
No. Well, I mean, I tell you what, one of the stunts that gets, that doesn't always get the love because it was a smaller one, but the fish tank stunt from 1 is incredible, because that was real. All that water was coming down when he's running through it.
When he's running, it's so beautiful.
But I think for sheer fun, I would like to do the Burj Khalifa climb, you know, when he's on the building.
Yes.
Because, I mean, I remember he had such fun doing that, you know, he was just smiling his head off. And other stuff, like when he did the plane and when he did the bike stunt, he was very focused, very concentrated. But on that Burj Khalifa stunt, he was just like a kid in a candy shop, just crawling around like Spider-Man.
What no one talks about is the landing of the plane stunt. They talk about the taking off, but the landing,
Yeah.
it doesn't land. I watched that. It doesn't. What about for you?
I mean, I would love to skydive because he introduced me to skydiving and I love it, and we even like jump together. So that would be so much fun. And also, I'm obsessed with horses, as you know.
She is.
Okay.
I can attest.
I'm obsessed with horses, so I would love to do like one of the like galloping in the desert, like super fast with a horse. It would be awesome.
There's always 8.
Pom met
So
a
I'll
horse
show.
in Norway called Lucky, and I think we should just give him a shout out.
Oh,
Let's give
Lucky!
Lucky
I
a
miss
shout out.
Lucky.
We love you, Lucky.
We love you, Lucky.
Miss
Lucky,
you.
I miss you.
Thank you both.
He's a fjord horse. He's so cute. He's like a pony, but he's like super strong. Usually they're like pretty lazy, the fjord horses. This one goes so fast. So I would just go for a ride so I could like talk about
Shouldn't
him
have
for
mentioned
hours.
it.
No.
It's our
So when I was
fault.
when I
You're
was
doing
not
this, but it's us talking.
when I was not shooting the movie, I was just like ride Lucky and just riding. We like go super fast, and he would never stop. And it was like so hardcore that I would have like blisters.
You need to tell Christopher to write Lucky into the next film.
I told him already.
She's told him she's writes him a letter a week.
I met a horse. He's amazing, but I think he looks too cute for a villain like me.
Put makeup on the horse.
It's been a long time, friend. You've no idea the power I represent.
How did you get the call for this?
I have no idea.
What do you mean?
It was a cold call. It wasn't even an audition. It was, how soon can you get on a plane to London? And I said, why? There's interest in you for Mission Impossible. I'm like, the movie with Tom Cruise? Yeah. And it was like, you know, thank you. And we had a good conversation with Christopher McQuarrie, and somehow the stars aligned for me.
What did he tell you about why you got that call? Did he tell you?
He had seen me in another project,
Yeah.
and he felt that I was possibly the right person for this role because of the gravitas, the danger, the lethality. I mean, no one can speak as well as Chris McQuarrie. I can't even, like, he has a way with words unlike anyone else that I've met. And whether it's on the spot or written down on paper, like thought out, he's a poet and a real craftsman. So just talking to him for 2 hours on a Zoom call was fascinating. We went over so many things, and he belted. I said, I'm a team player. I said, whatever you need. He goes, well, this is not, you know, your average conventional filmmaking. We move, we do things. It's not the average, you know, way you make movies. Can you hang with that? And I was like, yes, sir.
How would you ever say no? So how different was it in experience? Because they almost work backwards in the sense that they find what works with an actor with a shot, and then they build the story around it.
That's right. Well, the thing is that they know movies so well that they can actually, they know a sequence that you might think you've seen it before, like, oh, we've seen a train fight before. But then they look for ways to make it something you haven't seen before. Thrills, angles. You know, I mean, from, you know, everyone from John Frankenheimer to David Lean is like nodded to in these movies. So if you really know film, you'll understand it. And if you don't know film, you'll just be in awe of like the immersive nature of this film, which is why it's important to see it on a big screen. It's important to just go there and let yourself be transported.
What, because we all hear the word villain, right? So you as an actor, do you feel a pressure, or how do you find your way in? Because there's like, we always talk about the quote-unquote villain in the film, right? So it has to match the hero, or else it doesn't work.
Absolutely. I think your heroes, the more formidable a foe your hero has, the bigger the mountain. And you can't have a hill. You need something ferocious. And for me, it's about tapping into the pain in my life, tapping into the times where I've had to draw deep, and it's serious stuff. And I think that McQuarrie and Tom know how to capture that and edit it and put it all together in a way that leaves a lasting impact. The movie is haunting. The character I play is haunting. I play it tied to his past, to Tom's, or Ethan Hunt's past. And as I've said a couple of times, I think nobody can threaten your future more than somebody who knows your past.
So did you spend any time with Tom sort of developing that backstory? Is that
It's-
something you did on your own?
Well, the thing is that, I talk to the director more, and then Tom comes in and he fine tunes. He has an eye. Come on, the guy's been doing this at such a high level for so long. He knows what works with the audience. He knows, and it's funny too. I loved watching the fun aspects. So for me, this is a dream come true.
What is the stunt of Tom's that you wish you could do, that you would like to try?
Where can I start? That motorcycle jump is something that must be extremely exuberating. I mean, think about it. You're on a motorcycle, you're flying through the air, and then you let go of the only thing that was keeping you on the ground, and then you fly. I mean, I can't think of anything closer to being a bird. And then you land, hopefully. That's the key.
Yeah.
There's so much danger. There's so many pitfalls. So many things could go wrong. And he does it. And he does it so well that I just wish I had wings like he does in this movie.
They're wrapping me. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. And I'll make sure you watch it July 12th. Let's
That
break
was
some
good.
records.
You
Let's
did-
break some records. That's my dream.
Listen to me. The world's coming after you.
This is a great duo. This is a very dynamic duo. Did Tom give you guys like an idea, like this is sort of the idea of what we want for these guys, and the chemistry between the two of you to be?
I think that grew organically, honestly. I don't think it was a set plan of like, hey, this is what we're doing and this is how y'all have to behave. I think outside of filming, we grew this bond, and me just learning from Shea, which he's a fantastic actor. Obviously, he has this long career. But I just, fed off of him on camera, and I was like, okay, this is how it goes. And he was very courteous, not to like say, hey, this is how you should do it, but just like, giving me his point of view on things. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And he would also take mine like, oh, I love what you did there. And then it would give him something to play off of as well. So it was a, match made in
Your
heaven.
character's very conflicted, and there's a moment in the film, without spoilers, that you could go one way and you go another way, and I was very surprised.
Yeah, I mean, look, this thing is fun, it's big, it's entertainment, but also these guys, McHugh and Tom, I always say them together, they're looking for story, they're looking for characters that you care about. You know what I mean? So even when he and I were building this relationship, there are things that I wouldn't tell him, you know what I mean? And just so that, and then you want things to just evolve, like you said, organically, and they did, luckily.
Did you call your Top Gun castmates and say, hi, I'm the one back. I'm the one back.
No. Honestly, so when I got the job, I was told I couldn't say anything, and I'm a stickler when it comes to no one knows what's going on in the film. I keep my mouth shut, and I didn't tell them that I was in the film at all. They found pictures because fans would take pictures, and it was like, Tarzan, is this you? They come in a group message, and I'm like, no. Girl, no, it's you. So I didn't tell them anything.
You didn't even tell your castmates.
No.
So when you got to tell them, what was the announcement like?
Well, they were peed off that I didn't share it with them, and they had to find out on their own. And it was just like, surprise, guys, I'm here.
I love it. So I've been asking everybody today which of Tom's stunts you would most want to do from the franchise, but I think in your case, I'm going to ask you both to invent a stunt that you would both like to do in the next Mission Impossible film as a duo, if you can.
Oh, let's see. Oh, man, if we were in the next one.
And you got to do a brilliant stunt.
If we got to do the next Mission Impossible film, dang, that's a good one. What would be the stunt?
I don't know. I think I'd use that backdrop right behind us right there.
So you would come back to Rome, is what you're saying?
Try to jump between. I'd do like a nice foot chase over the beautiful buildings right there, maybe, something like that.
I wonder if they can invent jetpacks or something. I would say let's do some jetpacking.
All right. So which one are you doing from the previous?
Yeah, that's a good one. I know. What are you gonna do?
Oh, from any of the missions? I would do the when he climbs on the Burj Khalifa, because he was like Spider-Man, and I really want to do that. That was so cool. Never been done before.
Fly out the window face first.
Fly out the window first.
Would you do that?
Oh, and you know what? What if, you break the window and you fly out and you have to throw you the parachute and you have to put it on before hitting the ground and then letting it go? That would be the stunt I would want to do.
See, you're combining two stunts.
I'm combining it. Yes, being innovative.
I love when he's hanging off the side of the plane and when it takes off. That's one that I still can't get over when I see. I love that one. I think that's something that I could maybe do. You know what I mean? That'd be cool.
Last question. What is one thing that you can do now because of this training? Like, how intense was this training? And what is something that you're super capable of now that you couldn't do before? And how did it compare to the Top Gun training?
What I can do now is I can ride motorcycles. I wasn't necessarily the best at it. I'm really good at it now. And compared to Top Gun, Top Gun was its own thing where we had to learn how to fly planes and get in the F-18. I say that so casually, like, oh, learn an F-18. That was one thing, but with this one, we had to learn an array of skills. So it was more daunting because you had nonstop like this. So which one is harder? I don't know. I can't put a difficulty level on it, but it was intense.
For me, it's driving. Be able to drive, with Wade Eastwood, and I love it. I can't get enough of that. I love it.
He didn't know how to drive at first.
No, drifting and all that. To me, it was one of the great things about this is to be able to them and trust me to do all the driving. We did a ton of it. I mean, a ton of it through these streets and with cameras mounted, 4 cameras mounted where I could barely see, and it was. To me, it was I was like a kid in a candy store.
Someone just broke into a car.
Yeah. Somebody's about to go drifting.
This fate is written. Shall we write yours too?
If anything happens to them, there's no place that I won't go to kill you. That is written.
After every Mission Impossible movie, the very first screening,
Yes,
Tom leans over and whispers in your ear and says,
we can do better.
I was hoping you were going to do it in your best Tom Cruise voice.
That was as good as I can do it. That was as good as I can do it.
That is amazing to me. And if it was any other actor saying that, I would be like, well, that's insulting. But with Tom, he actually does it and you actually do it. And I didn't think you could top Fallout, and you did.
Wow, thank you.
So how the heck do you top yourself? What practically, when he says that, what does that mean for you as a director?
That means we take everything we learned from what we've just done and we apply it to the next thing. And really everything we've learned in everything we've done together and everything we've done separately. We're never satisfied. We're looking at those sequences and there's what you dream of the sequence being, and then there's what you ultimately end up with.
Yeah.
We don't settle for that. We're looking at it and saying, now, okay, we could have done better. How do we apply it? So what you're seeing in Dead Reckoning, Part 1 is everything we learned from previous motorcycle stunts, everything we learned from previous skydiving gags. Now we put the motorcycle and the skydiving together.
Ooh, I see what you did there.
Yeah, and sequences we've always dreamed of doing. We're talking about things long in advance. We've been talking about some sort of base jump for a long time. We've been talking about some sort of a train sequence, some sort of a submarine sequence for a long, long time, and they eventually just percolate to the surface.
So for you, as when you're setting up your shots, how does that actually look? Because the helicopter sequences in Fallout were incredible, so visceral, but I feel like this is the first film where I felt like I was inside the film instead of watching it.
Yeah.
So for you, like when you're doing the 0G scene, how are you improving on yourself in terms of where you're putting your shots in that?
More and more, it is about the emotion that I'm after is in the frame. It's not about watching people have an emotional experience. It's framing it in an emotional way. Wow. It's putting the camera in such a place where I feel it before we put the actors in, before we call action. That was really something that evolved for me during Fallout, where I realized even a shot of a key, you have to feel it. It's got to be done in such a way that it gives you an emotional reaction instead of just being information.
So you've teased that both of these films are monsters, you've called them.
Yes.
But how are they going to differentiate themselves? I read something about this one sort of simmering, and then the next one is just going to be bonkers.
Yeah, it's a continuum. The story is growing from the beginning of Act 1 of Part 1. You feel an escalation throughout the movie. That escalation continues in Part 2. It's not a reset. It takes off right from there.
Will the tone feel the same, or will it feel a little bit?
It's hard to say. I would tell you, I would not be cheeky. I would tell you if I knew. They're such organic things that we tend to go where the emotions take us. I know from the things I've already shot that they are similar enough, but the same way that we apply everything we've learned, we've been doing that in real time to the second movie.
Yeah, I know you've only shot a part of it. I want to go to your camera time in the featurette of the jump.
Yes.
Some beautiful moments there, sir. And I know they were very real. Can you describe jump one? Because you kind of held your breath for that one. And then after that, you were a little bit more celebratory. But that feeling, as I'm sure his stomach is going, how is it for you?
We had practiced the stunt many, many times. You see in the featurette, we were in a quarry. He had a cable between two cranes, and that was all a camera test. That was really just to find a place to put the camera. And it was for Tom to develop the sense of the bike, the wind speed, because he couldn't be looking at a speedometer. We were eliminating all the variables. What you couldn't predict was the difference between jumping off of a 100-foot high ramp into that quarry and a 2,000-foot drop. And you couldn't lens out the shot. You just didn't know what it was going to look like. And there were certain factors that we simply couldn't predict, which meant that no matter how much you rehearsed it, when you went there on day one, you really didn't know what was going to happen. We also had very calm conditions and very controlled conditions. And in Norway, there was crosswind.
Yeah.
There were all these variables, and we were determined not to do the shot with a helicopter because we didn't want to blow Tom off the ramp. And when we got to Norway, we discovered the only way for us to get the shot was to do it with a helicopter. And so that shot was improvised. For all of the time that we had spent, we decided, the helicopter guys came up to us and said, we actually think we can get this shot. And we ended up doing it with a helicopter. So when Tom took off, my first thought was the helicopter could just blow him off the ramp. And if he goes off the ramp, the parachute's not going to save him. Mm-hmm. Once he went off the ramp, I thought the helicopter could easily foul the bike. Tom could get tangled up. There were a million different things that we had eliminated, which had all now come back. So imagine spending months eliminating all the things that could be dangerous. And then on the day you go to shoot, you reintroduce all of them.
Doing them all at once.
So it truly, as much as we knew, we knew nothing from when he went off the ramp. And there are very few instances where we don't know pretty sure how it's going to turn out. So that was quite terrifying. The other factor is he had 6 seconds, and he had to count those seconds. He had 6 seconds before he had to deploy the parachute. And if he didn't, he was not going to have enough room. And so those 6 seconds, which in real time don't feel like a lot, just stretched on for an eternity. MI8,
you said the only thing that made you more nervous than that is what you're going to do in the next one. You tend to shoot, I think, everything in the beginning, all the really tough stuff.
Yeah.
Is the toughest stuff in the can?
No.
Really?
Something so hairy is in the can. The hardest thing is yet to come.
Is that the aerial sequence?
The aerial sequence we did in Africa was definitely to date the most terrifying thing we've done. That was extreme.
Any tease of like what?
You can see some pictures on the internet that'll give you a pretty good indication of what it is.
And so I think watching this one, I think I have an idea.
Mm-hmm.
I think the audience is going to have an idea of what you're doing that you maybe haven't shot yet. Am I correct in my assumption? Maybe beginning shot, end shot?
The very end shot should give you an indication of what's coming in part 2.
We knew he was going to do this.
Yeah.
Either jumping between planes or doing a submarine type situation.
You won't be disappointed either way.
The AI, I don't know if you're prophetic, because this was obviously written a few years ago, such a hot topic now. Could this happen? Because it feels to me, there's been a lot of villains. This feels like the villain I can understand the most, and the one that feels like the most it could happen.
I'll tell you, it's an idea we talked about for a long time. And when I first presented the idea to Tom, this was in about 2019, I said, this is an idea that would have been a little too abstract for audiences even a few years ago. But I feel people becoming more and more aware of how much their lives are affected by technology. So we saw it growing at such a rate What we didn't anticipate was the time it would take to make the movie and the acceleration of technology for it to meet the way that it has.
I think everybody obviously is going to talk to you about the stunts. The thing that I love about Tom is what an exquisite actor he is. And the one thing that I love that you do is you hold on shots where he'll tell the team, I got you. And you'll hold on it just long enough where you see the doubt.
Yes.
Can you talk as a director, working with him, some of those moments where you were just awed by him as an actor?
Yeah, I have to say, Tom is completely emotionally connected to the narrative. And what you're seeing is we're navigating this story through a sense of the emotional connection to the characters, whether it's through action, whether it's through drama. And he has this innate sense of when he is feeling the audience connecting with the characters and losing that connection. It isn't about Tom, the star. It's about Ethan, the character. It's about Maverick, the character. It's the protagonist in a protagonist-driven narrative. And so his relationship with the team and the way different characters introduce themselves, the way they comport themselves in the story, that's all done by sense of feel. We're working our way through a scene. We think it's a great idea on the day, and we get there, and we're stepping back from it and looking at it and going, I'm not feeling it. I'm not really connected to this person. The information, the plot, the story, none of that stuff matters as much, or rather, it can all give way instantly in favor of, I have to be connected to the characters. And one of the things I'm most proud about this movie, whether a character is a hero, villain, antagonist, you're connected to those characters. You feel an affinity for them. And that's really a testament to the cast. This is truly an extraordinary, top to bottom, amazing cast.
What are you going to do after 8 when he whispers in your ear, we can do better? Because
we have ideas.
Really, you're going to go beyond.
We have ideas, yeah. We're always talking, it's one long conversation about movies interrupted by production. Every so often.
My very last question. Pom's character, you've talked before about how you base some of these films off silent films, in a sense.
Yes.
Was her character based off a silent film character?
No, her character was, what really inspired her character was when Pom first came in to read, we did a camera test. It wasn't an audition. We don't write a role and then go look for an actor. We cast actors and then find the role. And we were doing camera tests with Pom and learned only in that test that her first language was French. And as soon as we heard that, I had written a scene for her. I said, stop speaking English, just speak French for the rest of the day. She said, the audience won't understand you. I said, it's an international spy movie. It doesn't matter. And she started doing French with Tom, and it changed her body language. It changed her entire comportment. And then we started taking lines away, and you realized she was so expressive without having to say anything. And the funniest part of production is Pom would come to work every day saying, where are all my lines? I don't have any dialogue. And I said, just listen to all the dialogue. Everybody else is explaining the plot of the movie. You don't have to. And you've got the best job on this movie. And she's such a force of nature. She's such a powerful presence. She just didn't need it. She was, that's what we were feeling every time we looked at her in the frame. And then when she finally does speak, you listen.
Yeah, I heard you say she's the best actor you've ever worked with. I'm like, you've worked with Tom Cruise, right?
I wouldn't say the best actor I've ever worked with. What I was saying in that interview is just that her power, how compelling she is. All Pom has to do is stand there, and you can't take your eyes off.
Words.
Yeah.